Alrighty. So now that leaves us to the waiver wire targets for week 12. A few injuries. We're getting to the meat and potatoes of the year. So maybe some guys that, you need to pick for your playoff push or for the playoffs. So, John, go ahead.
All right. Well, this week's a little weird because obviously it's Thanksgiving week. So we got 3 Thursday games, which is going to mix some things up, speed up some, guys maybe, playing because another guy is injured. So, for example, Justin Fields, don't know his status. Andy Dalton's probably going to be the quarterback there. CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, Amari Cooper's already out, but CeeDee Lamb might not play for the Cowboys. So, just different streaming options, different potential spot starts, then obviously a few options that could be a solid long-term rest of the season guys as well. Starting us off at quarterback, this is simply a streaming option spot start for the week. Andy Dalton from the Chicago Bears. They do play on Thursday, and they play the Detroit Lions, who just on the year have been the most fantasy-friendly defense for opposing quarterbacks. And Andy, I would say he's probably the best backup in the league, if not, basically, I think he's good enough to start essentially. So I don't think there's really going to be a major drop off, from the Bears offense moving from Justin Fields to Andy Dalton. I don't know if he's officially been ruled the starter yet for Thursday, but I would assume so because I haven't heard anything about Justin Fields and his potential to go. So I think it's going to be Andy Dalton. So I would start or pick up Andy Dalton if you need a quarterback this week. And the next quarterback is Cam Newton. He was on here last week, but just plain and simple, he's fantasy relevant because he can run. And he has a lot of weapons around him that make his life pretty easy. He had a really solid performance, I think like 25 fantasy points this past week against Washington. And although it was a fantasy-friendly matchup, once again, he can run the ball and he can get rushing touchdowns, which gives him a lot of value. And also he has guys like Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore who make his life really easy.
In regards to Dalton, this is per the ESPN Fantasy app. Matt Nagy's confirmed today, Tuesday, that Dalton will get to start Thanksgiving Day versus the Lions.
Okay, yeah. So if you need a quarterback, do we know who's on bye this week?
I'll pull that up 1 second.
Anyway, if you need a quarterback and you need someone that's available on waivers, Andy Dalton should be available out there.
Chiefs and Cardinals on bye weeks. This could be a tough bye week for a lot of people.
Yeah, so if you have Mahomes, if you have Kyler Murray, and maybe you just haven't really found a solid replacement for Kyler in his absence, Andy Dalton, he's a solid spot start this week that you could pick up. Moving on to running backs, we're going to start off with a pair of running backs from the same team, and that's Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman. Michael Carter, he got hurt, is scheduled to miss a few weeks. I think at least 2, maybe 3, could be more. You never know with injuries. And we don't know who's really the guy between those two. Tevin Coleman had 5 carries in their game this past week against Miami. And then Ty Johnson had 1, and they both had 1 reception. Just too small of a sample size to really know who's going to be the go-to guy. And so just the way that I would envision it happening is Ty Johnson probably gets an increase in carries than he had before, but he still retains his receiving work. And then Tevin Coleman probably takes over as like the primary carrier of the ball. So yeah, if you're in a deeper league or you maybe have Michael Carter, if one of those guys is available on the waivers, I would pick one, if not both up, if possible, just to see who becomes the guy in his absence. If I had to bet on one, I would say Tevin Coleman, just because I think he handles more of the actual rushing. And so that's probably the safer bet. So those two are both on here. Next running back, Devonta Freeman. He's only on here because he's actually available still in a vast majority of leagues, which is a bit surprising. Over the past 4 weeks, he's had top 24 finishes. So he's been an RB2 over the past 4 weeks. And 2 of those weeks, he's had top 12 finishes. So he's actually been an RB1 in 2 of those weeks. So Devonta Freeman has clearly won the Ravens' job. They released Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray, and Tyson Williams earlier in the year. Sort of looks like one of them might win it, but they just never really established themselves as the guys. And Freeman has clearly done that over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So if he's still available in your leagues, absolutely pick him up because he's been balling out. Next, final running back of the group, Rex Burkhead from the Houston Texans. They traded Mark Ingram, and today they cut Phillip Lindsay, which means it is between him and David Johnson. And in the game that they just recently played, Burkhead actually had more touches than David Johnson on the game, and he, outplayed him on the touches that they both had. Burkhead had, I think, 18 carries for 40 yards, where Johnson had like 13 carries, but he averaged like 1 yard a carry. So just plain simple, Burkhead was more productive and he got more touches anyway. So I think that he's probably the more reliable fantasy option. Wouldn't really like either of them starting in my team, but if you're in a situation where maybe you had Derrick Henry or Michael Carter or somebody who's injured and you need to throw somebody in there, Rex Burkhead, he's going to get volume. So solid option. Moving on to wide receiver. First up, Quan Smith from the New Orleans Saints. He's the best receiving talent that they have on the team right now. And he's starting to prove it over the last few weeks. We'll see what happens if Taysom Hill takes over. But right now, they just don't really have a whole lot of threats at receiver. And Quan Smith has proven that he's sort of the number one guy in that receiving group for the Saints. And that's probably going to continue for the rest of the year because we know Michael Thomas is not going to be coming back. Next up, Michael Gallup, if he is available, he, I think, will be over the 50% threshold that we have normally for our post, but he has to be on here. And this guy doesn't make the list right now, but I'll throw the caveat on that if Cedric Wilson's available as well, if CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, those two options are both people that you should be on your teams if they're available, because we know Amari Cooper's not going to be good to go against the Raiders, and CeeDee Lamb, he might not play either. So Michael Gallup should get a lot of work against a team that is giving up over 30 points per game. The Cowboys could bounce back and put up a lot of points. We'll see. But Mike Gallup, he should get a lot of volume in this one. So absolutely would make sure you have him on your roster if he's available. And next wide receiver, a guy who's been on here before as well, but just simply he's balling out so much that I can't keep taking him off here until he's picked up in a majority of leagues, and that's Elijah Moore. Just once again, plain simple, the production is there, the volume is there, and I think the best part about this against the Dolphins this past week, I think he had a season high in snap percentage of like 89% of snaps he was playing. So he's even getting in the game more, and he's just balling out, plain and simple. And the final player of this week's waiver wire segment is not going to be a tight end. Typically, we have tight ends. Not going to have a tight end this week. It's another wide receiver, and that's Robbie Anderson from the Carolina Panthers. Since Cam Newton has come back and been in the game, Robbie Anderson has had two of his best fantasy performances all year. Now, they're nothing to write home about. 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals, I think he had like 14 points, but he got a touchdown in that game. And this past week, he had 8 points. Once again, nothing shocking, nothing crazy. They are showing that he is becoming more involved in the offense with Cam Newton as the quarterback. And we know how talented Robbie Anderson is. He's been dropped in so many leagues that if you have a spot, maybe pick him up and see what happens, because with Cam back, we could see him maybe potentially return to the Robbie Anderson mold. So those week's waiver wire pickups. If you need people, every week we've been hitting on different options, and we're making sure that people get on the bandwagon for some of these guys early, and don't be the person who doesn't play the waiver wire, because you can get some league winners.
Yep, I have 4. Not going to name some of them because some of them have soured in recent days, recent weeks. But regardless, that is the episode. So we will be recording again tomorrow, which is Wednesday when this is recording, because of Thanksgiving. We'll talk with John. Might do all the games. Probably do the whole podcast then. But other than that, you can hit us up on our socials. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, at Shut Up and Ball Pod is the Instagram handle right above John. That's where we mainly are. But we also have our Instagram, I just said Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which is at Shut Up and Ball, and a Facebook page, just Shut Up and Ball. And then if you're listening or watching, like, comment, subscribe there. We have a YouTube, and we upload the podcast to majority of the streaming services. So other than that, we'll see y'all later. And that'll be all.